We're delighted to welcome His Worship, Councillor Jonathan Glanz, the Lord Mayor of Westminster, our first citizen, because we're, of course, in the borough of Westminster here. You're very welcome, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here and to support the work that you're doing here, rebuilding the culture and arts base of Westminster.
We have a long history with Westminster because actually some of our audience and some of the public will know that up until about 1992, for many decades, we were run as a branch of Westminster Council. And when the hall was refurbished in 1992, my predecessor, William, who was in the building for about 56 years actually, worked from City Hall for that year during the refurbishment. And that was Westminster's parting gift to us in a way to do that refurbishment. And then we became an independent trust. And of course, we've kept in contact with many councillors and with the council itself since then. So it's a very important connection for us, and we're always delighted to welcome the mayor and to welcome members of the council here. And since then, of course, the hall has grown into something different. Back then, it was very much a hall for hire, and here we are in 2020, in the middle of this pandemic, with very reduced audiences and reduced ability to raise funds and all the rest. And of course, we're very concerned, not just for ourselves, but for the entire borough and for the West End and for everybody who's affected. It's not just the theatres, it's the taxi drivers, the local businesses, everybody who relies particularly around the West End on that business. And we know that you're all very concerned about it too.
Well, as you say, it is a concern that we very much share. And you're absolutely right to point out the interrelationships within Westminster and within the West End in particular. When people come to the West End, it offers them a unique perspective, a unique opportunity to have a special evening, so they can come along. Not only can they come to a concert or go to a theatre or to a restaurant, but they can do all of those things. And if people come from within the UK or international visitors, they're offered a unique combination of the cultural opportunities here, of which we have various centres of excellence, including your own here, but also unique and independent special shops, wonderful museums, dining opportunities, and then, of course, if they've got the stamina, plenty of nightlife as well.
And of course, the cultural life of the city of Westminster is central to our identity, not just for Londoners, but to the entire nation. It's an international destination for the live performing arts, for galleries, exhibitions, museums. How will the council support us as we go along?
Well, we've been doing what we can to support in terms of help with rates and with grants. Also lobbying central government, who control many of the purse strings in this scenario, to ensure that opportunities in Westminster, but particularly cultural institutions and others, are supported, and to explain to them exactly what an important role all of that plays, not only here in Westminster, but in the capital and in the country. As you say, we're lucky enough in Westminster to have a significant number of cultural institutions of world-class standard. And they draw a particular audience, they draw people to come here, whether they be tourists or whether they be people who are coming because they come regularly because of their love of music or their love of arts or their love of the particular offerings which are available. We've got wonderful opera, we've got wonderful ballet, we've got wonderful concerts, but we've also got the National Gallery and the Tate Gallery, Wallace Collection, many other cultural institutions, both large and small. And I think it's the fact that they are all here offering that variety, that unique opportunity to see all of that within our 8.5 square miles of Westminster that really makes it so special. And we're very, very keen to ensure that not only does everybody survive the current problems, but will continue to thrive and offer that opportunity both to Westminster residents and far beyond to London, the country and the world.
We were very pleased to welcome you here for a live performance recently, and it's a very different experience, of course, and we're one of the first institutions, certainly one of the first live performance institutions to open in the city of Westminster. As you saw, it's a very different experience. Just how did you find it?
Well, as you say, it's a different experience, but nevertheless a very worthwhile experience. And my wife and I both thoroughly enjoyed the concert that we were able to attend. And I think What was encouraging was that there was a significant number of people, obviously not as many as you would normally have here, nevertheless a significant number of people, all of whom were complying with the reasonable requests to keep their masks on and to conduct social distancing. But the enthusiasm for the performance that was there, the enjoyment that was able to be created, and the fact that that performance was able to be shared, in that case via Radio 3, but also over live streaming and over the internet, means that music is still functioning here in Westminster. And as I say, we encourage that. We hope that it will restore itself sooner rather than later to its full glory in relation to having every seat in this House filled. But what is important is that the infrastructure, the whole building, its staff and its team remain in place for the day that we will be able to restore full and normal service, which, as I say, I hope won't be too long away. So, as I said, it was very interesting to come and see how you were operating yesterday. But what are the challenges that you face operating during a pandemic, particularly given that many of your artists are from all over the world?
Well, it's pretty tough. I spent 2 hours this morning dealing with cancellations and forward planning just on the concerts between now and Christmas. It's been a big challenge to reopen, and as I said, we're one of the first to reopen, and hopefully others can follow soon. We've been able to do it because we can fundraise online, and we very much want to pay artists their full fee, because we feel that so many of them have been out of work for 6 months without any income at all in many cases, that we want to give them their normal fee. So the combination of a 20% socially distanced audience paying for their tickets and then fundraising online gets us to that full fee, and we cover our operational costs through other fundraising. Clearly, health and safety is really important in the whole. So the cleaning bill has gone through the roof in that we have antiviral fogging before and after every concert. Every seat is cleaned, the auditorium is cleaned. It actually feels very safe and very clean when I walk through when that's being done. A virus certainly couldn't survive that. The audience has been very compliant at the moment in terms of turning up for staggered entry. Some of them have to be in their seats half an hour before the concert. We've got 3 entry times, and everybody's adhering to that, so people don't have to cross over. And the feedback we're getting is that they feel very safe, and then they leave in a very safe manner as well. And we try to make sure that the concerts are somewhere between an hour and 90 minutes without interval, and that we can get people in and out safely. We have temperature checks for everybody at the door. And then, of course, dealing with artists, we've purposely rebuilt the season in a way that 75% of the artists are UK-based, and then we can avoid problems with quarantine. But it's very difficult at the moment to bring artists out of France or out of Belgium. Italy and Germany seem to be okay at the moment. Germany is where most of our artists are actually coming from the moment, because we most of our international artists are coming from there. Nobody from the States. We made that decision very early on. And sometimes rules change a day or two before a concert, and when we've got to reschedule, artists certainly don't want to come here in quarantine. So we're moving things around, and everybody is staying within the rules and the guidelines. And the public and the artistic community are being very accommodating and very patient as we work through all of this. So very often we're telling the public 20 hours, 24 hours before a concert that the artist and the repertoire has changed. They're still turning up to support us and support the artists. And that's so important, because when we opened in June, we broadcast from an empty hall, and the viewership for some of those concerts and listenership was up to about 1 million when Mitsuko Chida and Mark Padmore performed Winterreise here in June, which is rather out of season for June to have that winter journey. But actually it reflected very much the time and what we were feeling at the time. But that was a huge symbol of hope for the industry. And on the basis of that, then we were able to build towards reopening in September. And we have been very generously granted £1 million from central government, and that arrived on Monday, and that will allow us to continue programming again, hopefully between January and March. And I think we can fit in about 70 concerts, including lunchtime events. And again, we will try to bring artists certainly from Europe, but mainly home-based artists who've had such a hard time, and we know we can get them here. And hopefully, for the moment, we can keep bringing in a public audience. We'll certainly keep broadcasting from an empty hall. The show will go on regardless of whether or not we have a public, and the artists will be paid. So it's very important that when people are watching online that they donate to us, because it does cost a lot. The government grant only goes so far. Our usual operating cost is £7 million a year, so 1 million is great, but you can see that it can really only fund a small period. And we've had to let 6 staff go. We've made huge cuts right across the board so that we could actually get to the stage where we could have public performances again and come through without going under, as it were. So it's not been an easy landing. And the fact that we're one of the first to open, I'd like to dispel any notion that we've had a soft landing. And all of our relationships in terms of fundraising have taken years to cultivate. Money just doesn't fall from the sky, and even cultivating DCMS and the Arts Council and getting their confidence, it's based on a track record. And it gives us confidence for now, but we have a tough few years ahead. The economics of the whole are quite easy to explain. We bring in £2.5 million a year in fundraising, and that's a lot of work, and £4.5 million in ticket sales. Clearly, we can't do the ticket sales at the moment, and fundraising is tough because even major donors who have been so generous to us over many years are not able to give at the same level, or not committing certainly ahead. Sometimes people would commit 2 or 3 years ahead. That has changed. So we're in a completely different ecology in a way, and we want everybody to survive, because the live performance arts here in Westminster is so important, and we all rely on each other. So yes, we might be first out of the trap, but we want to see everybody else coming soon after.
Yes, well, that's good to hear that you got the money from the government, because I'm sure it will help, even if it isn't as much as you might want and need, but it will certainly help to allow you some freedom to plan ahead for the next few weeks and months at least. I must say that what has been wonderful here is that you've been an example of best practice, first out of the traps, but also showing the way that it can be done, the sensible precautions, the sensible way in which you can manage the audience and minimise risk. And I hope that example will be followed as the broadening of the opening of theatres and other cultural institutions takes place, hopefully sooner rather than later, so that we can begin to rebuild the arts base here in Westminster. As you rightly say, it's going to be a long and possibly painful and slow process, but the sooner we can start and the sooner we've got a base from which to rebuild, the sooner we will be able to get that process going. And we absolutely share the aspiration and hope that we will be able to restore Westminster to its rightful place at the top of the cultural tree.
Well, thank you very much for being here today, Lord Mayor, and thank you for your support, particularly for your moral support at this time. We all need it as we begin to rebuild the artistic community and the artistic output here in the City of Westminster.
I'm very happy to be here and to support the work that you're doing, and to really express my gratitude to you for being one of the first venues within Westminster to reopen, and as being an exemplar of best practice to show how we can set about doing that by working together.